This is Akashavani Mangaluru. Yuvavani. Dear friends, welcome to today's English Yuvavani program. Indian Institute of Science Education and Research and National Institute of Science Education and Research are the premier science education institutes established in line with Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru. They offer fundamental science education and research facilities of international standard. Recently, we have caught up with 3 Indian Institute of Science Education and Research Thiruvananthapuram scholars with exemplary and remarkable academic achievements. They are Shreya Venkateshan, Gold Medalist of 2024, Vidyarashmi Hanehalli, and Naveen Balachandran. In conversation with them is Lateesh Paldane.
Hello friends and welcome to Yuvavani program. In today's program, we have 3 outstanding students who have achieved a remarkable success in their academic career. With us today, we have Vidyarashmi Hanehalli, who has done BS-MS dual degree from IISER Thiruvananthapuram, and we also have Shreya Venkateshan, who has also completed her BS-MS, and also Naveen Balachandran. So first of all, congratulations on behalf of Akashvani. Right now, we would like to know more about your course, career, and everything. So first of all, Vidyarashmi, what is this BS-MS dual degree? Can you please elaborate?
BS-MS, it stands for Bachelor's and Master's in Science. So generally in colleges like which we find in Mangalore or any other cities, they usually have Bachelor's and Master's as a separate course that you do Master's in one subject, and Bachelor's usually takes up 3 years, and then they do Master's in some subject of their preference, which is for 2 years. Hence, it combines again for 5 years. But this course is an integrated Bachelor's and Master's, which means that the time duration is same, 5 years, but the course is structured in a different way. That is, in IISER Thiruvananthapuram, how they have categorized 5 years is that the first 2 years is a foundation course, which means that students, despite their background, all have to take all subjects, biology, mathematics, physics, and chemistry, which enables them to have a good foundation in all of them. And then they have, for the next 2 years, they can take advanced classes or courses in the subject that they prefer, which could be biology, math, chemistry, physics, data science, or earth and climate science. And then the last year is just your master's project. The entire year you can devote either in the campus or off campus to do this project.
How did you get to know about this course, and what is the procedure to get into this course?
Right. After my 10th, I chose the route of, training for the competitive exams, JEE NEET. And back then there was this exam called KVPY as well. So in my coaching center, they initially introduced all these exams to us and told us what exam could lead you to which college. And that's when I realized I discovered that there are these colleges called IISER, Indian Institute of Science Education and Research, which I was not aware of before. Then after doing some research on my own, I understood that clearing the KVPY exam could land me in one of these institutes. Hence, I decided to pursue that particular competitive exam, and that's how I ended up in IISER.
So Naveen, what was your motivation to get into this field?
Well, it's probably pretty common for a lot of people here. We were all in coaching institutes trying for JEE or engineering, so on and so forth. But I generally had an interest towards pure sciences, but I didn't really know how you would go into that, except maybe the common BSc MSc type. Shortly after, or during the time I wrote KVPY, I heard about the IISER, but I didn't get KVPY. Instead, I heard about IISER, and I heard about how it is actually like one of India's premier institutes for research focused. The other ways you could get into IISER are through JEE Advance, getting a really high rank, or through the IISER aptitude test. So during the routine of writing JEE and all that, I also focused on the IISER aptitude test, and that's how I got in. And yeah, genuinely, I've been very happy I made that decision. It's the perfect one for the sciences.
We also heard that you are into sports, and how was the experience there? Studying and sports, could you manage that?
There's a lot of facilities in IISER. It's IISER Trivandrum in particular I can talk about. I've only visited IISER Pune also. And there as well, they've got a lot of sports facilities. IISER Trivandrum has a very large campus, some 200 acres. And in that, they've got courts for every sport, a gym facility. And the teams there do take part in inter-IISER Sports Fest. So it's a lot of fun there. And most people find the time to juggle academics and sports as well.
We have Shreya with us. Shreya, you are a gold medalist. So, ever thought that you will get a gold medal?
No, I don't think that was ever the plan,
Okay.
but it happened and I'm very grateful for it.
So, how did it happen? Please explain.
I wanted to join IISER mostly because, like everybody else there, I wanted to do research.
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity to have a family friend come and visit me at home when I was in 9th standard. And she did her degree from IISER Pune. And that's when I found out that there are these institutes where you can completely do research. And it was very eye-opening for me because I knew I didn't want to do engineering. So I took bio. But then everybody was telling me to try for medical. And I wasn't interested in becoming a doctor. But I didn't know what other option was there. So this pure science research kind of thing was extremely, extremely eye-opening for me. And then I decided that I wanted to try to get into IISER, and I tried KVPY, but I didn't clear that. So I got in through the IISER aptitude test as well. And in IISER, like Vidya mentioned, we have a lot of specified courses that we can do in fields of our interest, as well as some that we might not necessarily like, but are important for us to get an interdisciplinary understanding of the field. So you asked specifically about the gold medal, but there is nothing much to really say. Like, it genuinely just happened and I'm very glad for it. But it was never with the motivation of getting a gold medal that you study or you do research or anything like that.
Okay, so what were the challenges that you faced while studying or whatever it is?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, at least for me, was kind of a sense of independence that I had to learn to balance. Because when we first go to leave from a school environment where we're with our parents all the time, there's a lot of regulation on what you study, how you study, especially in 11th and 12th, because there are these competitive exams that we're preparing for, and we have very strict kind of discipline and schedules and things like that. But once we came to college, it was completely free. Like, you had nobody asking you what you're studying, how many hours you're spending. Nobody even cares if you go to classes or not. So we have attendance, but what you're studying in class, what you're doing there. So navigating that kind of unchecked freedom was slightly difficult for me. And I think that was probably the biggest challenge to overcome.
Now, Vidyarashmi, it's easy to get motivation and start something afresh. But to keep that motivation till the end is a big thing. So have you ever thought that, you had chosen a wrong field or maybe some other options would have been better? Have you ever thought?
Definitely. My friends from schools, most of them have taken up engineering somewhere here in Mangalore or Bangalore. The usual BTech courses last for 4 years and they immediately get job placements after that and they start earning soon after they finish studying. So when they mention it to us, oh yeah, I'm going to a job. So you kind of feel bad that, oh, I'm still learning and there's still a long path ahead for me to get a job. But I know for a fact that what I'm doing, I'm really happy and satisfied with it. And I knew before joining IISER that this is what I wanted to do. And it doesn't matter if I don't get a job immediately, but at the end of the day, I have the satisfaction that I need.
You also have done your internship in Germany and US. So how was the experience there?
It was a wonderful experience. It gave me kind of path to explore how research is done in India, Germany and US. And it was really wonderful to see that people everywhere are really enthusiastic about science, no matter what country it is. The only difference could be the funding, the resources, and the government support maybe is a little different, but that's really great. And it's wonderful to see that how people in science support each other no matter where, and we all have conferences, symposium, and people of different countries meet there, and the only thing we talk about is science, biology. Oh, I found this something really cool protein there. So at that point you feel really happy. So I found such a good environment both in Germany and US. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that.
So did you face any challenges there, like maybe cultural or anything else?
Right. So the first time I went abroad was to Germany. And of course, Germany is known for its the people having a lot of respect and love for German. And maybe not a lot of people there know English. So I definitely got lost multiple times on the way to home from the airport. And I asked a bunch of people if they know the way, but none of them could speak English. But I think with the rising technology now, with Google Translate and Google Maps, It has gotten easier, but it was definitely a way for me to learn independence, face all of it on my own and not call my parents at even the minor inconvenience. And I definitely felt like I grew up 5 years in that short duration.
Are there like any other support system you had apart from your parents, like professors or any students along with you who are studying? So can you name some?
Right. So when I went to Germany, my PhD mentor was an Indian, and she, like myself, was someone who moved from India to Germany when she was young. So they are super supportive and very nice because they have gone through that, and they know that the new people who come there will also go through that. So my seniors helped me, like they gave me food late at night. They helped me when I got sick. I had a support system even when I was not at home or someone who was not my parents. The same thing was both in Germany and US. So my professor in US was an Indian. So he would call me to his house for food. He used to have usual get-togethers so that we don't get burnt out in the lab. And there was a good Indian culture there as well. So we used to have Indian food parties and New Year parties. So you never feel left out, even if you're not in India. So I feel like that nature of people outside there, be it Indians or not, that kind of helped me get through all that problems and the hard time I was facing there.
So Naveen, how was your internship experience? Can you please share?
My major internship experience most recently was in IIT Kanpur. Obviously, IITs are also pretty famous as Indian institutes.
Yeah.
It's not something that we typically associate with a research focus sometimes, so especially in such an engineering-focused society. When I went there, I was pleasantly surprised because there are a lot of really good labs. Even the one that I went to, which was the decision lab headed by Dr. Arjun Ramakrishnan. He works in like the connection between biology and electrical engineering, so to speak, in neuroscience. One thing that the IITs significantly had was a connection with industry and such. So there would be a lot of proposals for how you could apply these research projects and pitch meetings and funding meetings and things. And I got to see that side of science pretty early, which is really cool. Sometimes when you're in an academic environment, you don't get to see how the tricky business of taking your research and having to prove that it's worth getting funding and things. But yeah, that's something that I'll have to face in future also. But yeah, the more labs, the more places that I go to intern or work under, the more I've learned. And each professor has a different approach and there's a different side of science that I get to learn. And yeah, I hope to go to a lot more places like that.
These days we see a lot of students pursuing engineering course, and also there are a lot of colleges. But what do you think is the difference between these IISR or IITs and other engineering colleges?
Obviously, I don't have a lot of experience with the other engineering colleges and schools. Yeah. But I can speak mostly about IISERs.
Yeah.
Like Vidya mentioned, they're focused on research. One thing that happens is that because of this whole foundation course and then specializing idea, firstly, people who join in those first 2 years get an opportunity to change their field of interest. I know a lot of people who came and wanted to do physics, but after they found out that biology was something that they felt a calling to, or maths was, a lot of people study up to 12th standard maths, and then when they go to college, they realize that maths is drastically different and very theory intensive. It's not something that I felt a calling to, but a lot of people actually switch to that. Apart from that, the fact that it's such a research focused place means that there are professors working there who have research going on. And so either through internships or just like semester projects, you can work under them. And then you see how research is actually happening. A lot of BSc schools and all don't get that opportunity, or they're not encouraged to do that. They're told, okay, maybe later on during your master's or something, you can do a compulsory internship. So now people who come to IISERs, they get this exposure really early, and then later, and they feel like their horizons are broader. They aim higher because they've seen people, their seniors have already gone to so many other colleges or gone abroad and done PhDs. Having that support system, knowing that people before you have done this, it gives you your own confidence and gives you exposure. That's the best difference, I think.
Now, when you look back, have you ever think that, you should have done things differently, or, you could have done better or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. 5 years is done, and 5 years is a long time. Like, it doesn't always feels like it finished in the snap. But there's a lot, like, throughout third year and times like that, I've either slacked off a little, not focused enough, or maybe I could have started going for getting exposure, trying things out earlier. Back then, I was a little too afraid. Maybe I was nervous about trying a new lab or studying something new. And now it's easy for me to think, oh, I should have just become more courageous back then. I should have tried harder. But what can you do? At that time, there are things I would do better, but I don't think I would have been able to do it better at that time.
Shreya, there is a concept that now people who pursue science are all like bookworms, or they are very nerds and all. So how was the experience in the college, in your university? How was the situation there? How was the atmosphere there?
I think one of the best parts of being in a completely research-focused institute is that you get to see a varying range of people. So like you mentioned, there were some people who were completely glued to their books and always studying, and that set of people was also there. But there was also the set of people who were able to manage a variety of activities with so much ease. So they were able to have a thriving research life, a thriving social life, a thriving cultural life. And those people in particular were very inspiring to see because they also performed very well at whatever they did. So it wasn't that they were compromising academics to be good at sports or compromising sports to only be studying, but they were able to manage everything on their plate with a lot of efficiency. And I think that people ultimately who are able to manage different things, when they go forward in life and they have to experience the real world outside of college, it's always much easier for them. So the good part about college, for me at least, is getting to meet these various people and learning that, okay, in school we are told that studying is all we have to do. And if you study for X amount of hours a day, you will be good at what you do. But that's not necessarily true. So smart work, not hard work, I guess.
So now let us look at your field of study. We want to know, how do you think this field will evolve in future?
So what I did in my internship, what I did in my major project, and what I'm going to do in my PhD are very different. So unlike Vidya, so she has a steady focus across her experience, but my experience is very varied. So I'll talk a little bit about each of them, hopefully, so it shouldn't be too long. I worked in behavioral ecology for my internship. That field, I think, is thriving a lot right now because people are very interested in ecology as a subject, and it tends to draw a lot of interest because it's, so for example, if I ask a question like, do cats have fun personalities? It's a very catchy question, right? So it's not very intensive or difficult to understand, and ecology tends to be easy to communicate. And I think for that reason, it's a field that's going to do very well in the future and hopefully help us answer a lot of interesting questions. And for my major project, I worked with Parkinson's disease. So I worked on the interaction of diabetes and Parkinson's in a cell culture model and how that can effectively be used to generate new therapies and things like that. And there also, I think there's a lot of scope for it. So my professor used to keep saying that Parkinson's follows Alzheimer's. So any groundbreaking research that's done in Alzheimer's is followed by Parkinson's to find out if it's the same kind of effect or a different kind of effect. And now with the number of neurodegenerative diseases unfortunately rising across the world, I think Parkinson's research is going to become all the more important so we can improve the quality of life of people across the world. And third is my PhD. I will be working in behavioral neuroscience. So I'm going to be working on curiosity and what factors make children curious, and it'll be a comparative cognition project. And I think that also has a lot of scope for the future because when we're looking at research with children, it has a lot of implications for how we teach in schools. And specifically in India, the education system, at least in my opinion, could use a little bit of an overhaul, maybe some modernization to include children from different types of backgrounds who learn in different kinds of ways. So I think this research could potentially be very useful for that.
Now, Vidyarashmi, can you please explain more about your field of study in layman's terms, please?
Right. So my main focus throughout my internships, my major project, and my PhD, what's going to be on mitochondria. So I think almost everyone in schools or
mitochondria
offices
is the power of cells.
Yes.
Exactly. So my catchphrase is that mitochondria is more than just the powerhouse of the cell. What I've been doing for my internship and my master's project is that I was studying on a particular protein which is present in the mitochondria and involved in whenever there is a viral infection. And I was seeing how this protein interacts with other mitochondrial proteins which are involved in other processes. Let's say it's involved in mitochondrial well-being, its turnover rate and something like that. And basically I did this in cell culture and mouse models. So it was a pretty interesting study, and through my internships I gained a lot of skills. For my PhD, what I'm going to do is that mitochondria again, but in mouse intestinal cells. I'm going to see how mitochondria in this particular group of cell is involved in the aging of a particular mouse model. Then so that we can extrapolate it to humans and see how some particular proteins in one of the membranes of the protein, how they are involved or how they affect aging process. And if we can tweak it, probably we'll get to know about how exactly aging happens and what's the exact role played by mitochondria in this. And aging right now is a very catchy subject because everyone wants to, be immortal. We want to look younger and something like that. So probably a lot of focus is going to fall on this particular subject. But my focus is going to be on mitochondria and to see how few proteins, the proteases, are functioning in this particular process.
So what made you to take up this subject? Are there any particular reasons?
When I initially joined IISER, I was super open-minded. Since we were in foundation class, I was equally fascinated to all the subjects. Maybe not so much for theoretical mathematics, but definitely a lot more towards biology. This was when I met a bunch of seniors in IISER. So IISER is really known for its amazing seniors. If you go approach them, they will take time off their work, their classes, and they will explain you everything, whatever you want to know, be it about classes, internship, different scholarships, which research group to join in IISER. And this was when I met a few good friends of mine, and they recommended me a couple of books, a couple of research papers, a couple of research labs in IISER itself. And that was when I realized my passion was in molecular biology. I read a few research papers related to mitochondria and how in Parkinson's disease, the mitochondria protein, there is one important protein. If this protein is damaged, there is immediate cause or you're highly likely to get Parkinson's disease. And this protein itself is called Parke. And I was really fascinated by this. So from my second year till now, I am really just genuinely interested in that protein and I would like to devote my life to that protein. I wouldn't mind. So this was when I realized one tiny protein, which is few kilodaltons in size, could have such a huge impact in a person's life. That's what made me really curious. And now I want to know or see all the pathways, all the other proteins which are interacting with this particular protein and just elucidate the entire pathway. This is what driving me forward to pursue this particular field.
Now, Naveen, let's talk about your master's thesis. So, what were the challenges that you faced while doing the work?
So, master's thesis is like as I said, it's a full year dedicated to, a thesis. Trying to answer one major research question, as much progress as you can make, and then writing it out in a solid, convincing way, showing what results you got and what conclusions you can get from that. Now, the major challenge that I faced is just setup, let's say preparatory work. Every time you confidently start on some project, you're like, yes, I'll do this experiment will go perfectly and then I'll have the answer. It never happens. You might plan for the next 3 months and you'll be so confident. You'll be like, 3 months my project will be done. It won't. That might take a year. So my project actually started out in a completely different corner from where it ended up. I started out thinking I'll investigate, this is becoming a recurring theme, but I thought I'll investigate mitochondria in Parkinson's disease. And not in a protein-based way, but in a cell culture way. So looking at that, so I did a lot of cell culture work. And after almost a semester of work, I realized that I had no strong conclusions. I had nothing major in the way of, I could quantify it. I could show that under some stressful conditions, the cells were suffering more. The mitochondria were suffering more in a Parkinson's kind of environment, but not enough for a master's thesis. So maybe I should change my direction. And then by the end of it, I had drastically changed the direction. And then I was doing completely computational work, trying to count the cells in a mouse brain. So I guess the main lesson I learned is planning is not going to work that well in science. So the best thing you can do is always have backups and parallel things you're testing. This computational line that I did, it stemmed from something that I did on the side way back, not as a focus. It wasn't meant to be my master's thesis. But later on, you realize, this has more potential. If I put in enough time there, I might find some interesting new results. So planning is important, but making backups and knowing that there'll be setbacks. accepting that there'll be setbacks. There's so many times during my in IISER we can do minor projects as well. So I did a minor project in data science, and there as well, even though it's just 1 semester long, I've had moments where it's just sheer despair. When you look at your project and you're sure you'll get nothing from it, 2 months later you might have everything sorted out and you'll feel so happy, so confident. So a lot of it is a mental game, planning, and then having the confidence in yourself to keep pushing until you get results. That's mostly what I learned.
Earlier, if someone is pursuing biology, they don't need to know more about computers or data, anything. But how do you see that now? Is it necessary to have computer knowledge, especially advanced computer knowledge? How important it is?
A lot of it can be picked up alongside normal biology work, but more and more, at least a basic computational knowledge is becoming important. In science in general, as experimental stuff mostly, there's a lot of statistics and things like that. And modeling that requires some computational knowledge. You don't need to be an advanced coder or whatever. And you don't need to start out as a genius in the field. And each field that you have an interest in will have some specific package or some specific system that somebody else has put into place so that you can do it better. And you only generally need to specialize in that. You only need to learn more about that. So it's a lot easier than you would think. But nowadays it's become unavoidable. Everybody will eventually will probably have to work in computation to some degree. New directions are also being made. Machine learning and large data models are revolutionizing a lot of fields. Neuroscience or even proteomics and a lot of different. Biology is completely being revolutionized by it. But your standard experimental sciences are chugging along without that to a large degree, but with some help from statistics. Learn a little bit, but you don't need to obsess about it.
Now, let's go back to the gold medalist. Science can be stressful. How did you manage those stress and, to study, keep you motivated? How did you manage all those things?
There are 2 main things which really help. The first is arts and the second is friendship. So I'll talk about them in turn. But with arts, so I do Bharatnatyam and I do Indian Carnatic music. And I think those 2 were part of what helped me stay sane through college, through major project, all of it. Because at least for me, my personal way of working is that I can't study one thing for a very long time. So I can't sit with a concept for 2-3 hours if I don't understand it in the first half an hour. I work better if I take a break. Then I come back to it and suddenly with fresh eyes, it makes more sense. And during that break, if I'm just on my phone or I'm scrolling through Instagram or something like that, it doesn't really help my brain stay active. I become more dull through the course of it. But instead, if I take a break, I go sing for some time or I dance for some time, I feel more energized and ready to come back to it with fresh perspective. And I think that was definitely part of what helped keep me sane. And the second is my friends. So they were super, super supportive throughout college. And I think because all of us are in a similar environment, we understand the struggle. So my parents are doing their best and they tried a lot, but without understanding the exact situation, it was difficult for them to give kind of helpful advice. They would do their best and it was definitely very nice to talk to them. But in terms of what actually worked, my friends were able to tell me solutions that I could actually implement if I was feeling stressed. So that I think was very important.
Okay, now Vidyarashmi, what are your hobbies?
What I realized after going to IISER Trivandrum is that the campus is placed in such a way that it's right inside the Western Ghats. It's surrounded by forests everywhere. We literally have wild boars and wild elephants going through the campus. So it gives a nice opportunity to go birding. So I like to go watch birds. When I had a lot of free time in IISER, when I was not busy with my master's project, I used to take my binoculars early in the morning and go near the forest, sit near the waterfall inside the campus and go watch a lot of birds. So like this, there is a student-run club in IISER itself called ESI, Ecological Society of IISER Trivandrum. I found a lot of other people who had similar interests. So we would form a group and go birding in different parts of the campus. So that was one good thing. My other hobby is I started playing badminton during the COVID time. Then I continued that in IISER as well. People there are really great in sports as well. There were a lot of wonderful people to play there with. So every day after classes in the evening, everyone would flock the badminton courts and just play badminton non-stop for 3 to 4 hours. And that would be such an amazing part of the day. We would be looking forward to it. So I think like combining all of them was a really good time pass. And the other good thing about IISER is that the professors and the institute itself is supportive for students to do their own stuff. So Shreya and I are the founding members of the institute's biology club. It's called Proteus. I think when we were in our third year, us with a couple of other seniors and classmates, we formed this club. We were really happy. We had our own blog. We would read papers, write articles. We would recruit people. We used to have events, competitions, and we were busy with that. But it was also really fulfilling and joyous because we got to meet different professors of different universities, because we used to invite them like for online talks and symposiums and events. So it was really nice, a fun way to get to know different people in the campus. I mean, of course, the campus is huge. 2,000 people is huge population. But through this, we were able to find really nice people whom we shared interests with. So I think all of this made our, studying life little less hectic. Life in IISER more memorable.
So, Naveen, what are your future plans now?
While by no means is it necessary that someone who finishes at IISER has to go for a PhD, it's true that most of us do, and I'm the same. I've mostly worked in neuroscience and cognition in some way, and I'd like to learn more about it, and for that purpose I'm looking for PhD opportunities, most likely abroad. There's a lot to be learnt about the brain, learning and memory, and I want to do more research in that field. That's my goal at present.
Shreya, what about you?
Yeah, so Naveen and I actually did our major project in the same lab. So both of us have an interest in neuroscience. So I will be going to the University of Göttingen in Germany, where I'll be working with Professor Nivedita Mani to actually talk about the, curiosity and behavioral neuroscience in children and work with them. So that's the plan, to do a PhD.
And Vidya?
I'm also going to be pursuing a PhD at University of Cologne in Germany. And I'm going to be working on mitochondria. So this is mainly about seeing aging. But my future plan after PhD is to join the R&D department of a company to probably oversee some sort of antibiotic production or vaccination production. I'm not very sure about staying in academia and setting up my own lab as of now.
There are a lot of students, who are confused. They don't know what to do for their future or which course to pursue. So what do you think they should do first?
So if you see the current situation of any coaching center in India, it's either JEE or NEET. There is no in between. If you want to do math, you have to take the JEE coaching. If you want to do biology, you have to take the NEET coaching option. So I feel like that has to change, because I speak to a couple of young cousins or neighbors and I ask them, what do you want to do after 10th? They're like, Akka, I want to do NEET. Like, okay, that's good, but do you want to become a doctor? No, not really. I don't want to become a doctor. I just like biology. That's why the only option is NEET. So I feel like children should be given more opportunity or information that biology is not equal to NEET. And if you want to be a doctor, that's really good. I'm really happy for you. But there are more opportunities and options. Of course, in doctors, you can be a veterinary doctor or dental doctor or a normal MBBS doctor. If you want to see other opportunities in bio, you can do forensics. Then you can do biotechnology, food science, or just pure research like how I am doing, how we are all doing. So I feel like information is given to the children is really crucial. Because I did not know about IISER until I was writing these competitive exams. My parents did not know this as well. So not all parents know about this. So the marketing of all this coaching is that, we have a topper in NEET. So they just market NEET. But I feel like given that IISERs, there are 7 of them in the entire country, they are gaining popularity. People are getting to know a lot more about them. And even other colleges are offering different courses, biotechnology, forensics, and they're also gaining popularity because they have a good job prospect as well. So I think rather than just marketing JEE and NEET, just educate yourself about all the different opportunities and paths there are.
Okay, now Shreya, let's talk about different institutions. When we compare different institutions with IISR, what vitality that is missing in other institutions? What are they lacking that IISR is ahead of?
One of the main reasons that I think would be a passion for what you're doing. So in IISER, a lot of the professors that are there, they are there because they enjoy research. While they are teaching, most of them are able to communicate that enjoyment of research to us. But at least from what I've heard from other people, not personal experience, but what I've heard from other people in BSc colleges is that they are taught the subjects in a very textbook-based manner without any understanding of the fact that science becomes beautiful because of its applications and because of the fact that it's around us everywhere we see. So I think if that is communicated to the students in a more research-friendly manner rather than just a studying-focused manner, it would help a lot with how they approach the idea of research in general. And doing a BSc doesn't just become a degree that you hang on your wall and then go on to do an MBA or something like that. It actually becomes something that you want to pursue in the long run because of a passion for science.
Thank you so much, Shreya, Naveen, and Vidyarashmi for participating in this program. We wish you all the best for your future. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Dear friends, you have just heard an informal chat with three IISER Thiruvananthapuram scholars, Shreya Venkateshan, Naveen Balachandran, and Vidyarashmi Hanehalli. Interviewer is Lateesh Paldane. This is today's English Yuvavani program. See you next week. Thank you.